Question. Why do we all love stories but hate history? They are quite alike. Sometimes, somewhere, something happened to some people. But our attitudes towards them are completely different. We are willing to pay to watch a movie or TV show, but yet most people only learn history when they are forced. Believe it or not, the answer to this question is the source of all our problems. To understand that, let's see something else. This is a picture of a night sky. Look at the stars. If you grew up in a giant city, you probably haven't seen them with your own eyes. You have to drive to somewhere without air pollution and light pollution, and I'm pretty sure that you will be stunned when you see those stars for the first time. Because that was what happened to me when I had to work in a small town for a month. When I saw those stars for the first time, I couldn't move my eyes away from them. I just stared at them in awe, feeling that my mind was washed by something divine. It was beyond words. Then I was bored, probably in just a few minutes, and I never did it again. I stayed in a little town for a month. I had never watched those stars again. Why? Well, stars are not very interesting because they are not doing anything. They're just there. I think that's how our ancestors felt about the stars. They saw them and they forgot them. Only very few people were obsessive about them. They observed them every day, carefully, and they noticed that the stars were actually doing something. They are moving around the sky following a pattern, and we see different stars in different seasons, also following a pattern. After thousands of years of diligent observation, they made this. The constellations. The constellations are illusional. They are not real. They are the products of our imaginations, but they are interesting and memorable. This is history, and this is stories. There are no clear patterns in history. We made up stories with clear patterns. But why do we love patterns? Well, that's what a brain does. It's a pattern seeker. A brain has two functions. One, making predictions. Two, controlling the body to react according to the predictions. To make predictions, a brain must collect historical data and find patterns. This is what intelligence is all about. Without patterns, our brains cannot function. Collecting enough historical data is the first step of making predictions. Humans have incredible memories. Our brains are capable of storing a huge amount of information. When we talk to our friends, we are extracting information from our memories. And then we can keep talking for hours every day and then do it again the next day. That's how powerful our memories are. But our memories are also very unreliable at the same time. If several people experience the same event, they would generate very different memories. That's one of the reasons we developed writing systems and later computers. Writing systems and computers provide much more reliable memories. But the real problem our brains have to face is a physical limitation. Our brains are not big enough for all the information in the world. It's tempting to believe that our brains are excellent at observing this world and collecting enough information. Unfortunately, it's far from enough. This world is just too huge and complicated. The information contained in this world is overwhelming. Even small things, like this mug, contains infinite information. Do you think you know everything about this mug? Try to answer the following questions. How many atoms are there inside this mug? What are they? Silicon, oxygen, sodium, calcium, or something else? How do those atoms combine and form molecules? What kind of molecules? How many of them are silicon dioxide? I think you didn't expect to answer these questions, but even if we only focus on more mundane questions, the information is still overwhelming. Who owns this mug? Who made this mug? What kind of materials were used to make it? By the way, people who made this mug definitely needed to know what silicon dioxide was. What kind of machines were used to make it? How was this mug actually made step by step? How was it transported to the owner? Who drove the truck, etc.? Even though most people would only focus on the price, color, style, and the size of the mug, the point remains. We only know a tiny fraction of the information contained in this little mug. You look at it as a buyer. You focus on the information that matters more to you. If you work in the factory, you would focus on something else. None of the questions I ask is unimportant. They are only unimportant to the buyers. Now compare this mug to the whole world. You will see how much information our brains are missing. Not only our brains are too tiny for all the information in the world, but also we don't have enough time to collect all the information. So we can only collect more important information. But again, how can we judge what information is important if we haven't seen them all and we haven't experienced everything? The second part of making predictions is finding patterns. This is where things get even worse. Because the information we collected is always incomplete, our conclusions will always be incomplete. Sometimes patterns could be easily found. For example, we are absolutely certain that the sun will rise tomorrow, no matter what. But sometimes patterns are so elusive that we probably will never find them. Yes, the sun will rise tomorrow, but if we can see it, it's absolutely uncertain because the weather is too complicated and unpredictable. The patterns we found so far about the weather are not enough to make such predictions. Let's go back to the mug. Imagine I'm going to throw this mug on the floor. Can you tell how many pieces there will be on the floor after the mug is broken? No, you can't. There are too many variables and too many possibilities. The ways that the mug hits the floor are infinite. Hitting at different angles will cause different results. The floor seems flat and smooth, but it isn't. Hitting at a different position will cause different results. How hard I threw the mug also has infinite possibilities. So even though it seems like a very simple physical phenomenon that happens quite often in our household, but we just cannot make this kind of predictions. Let's compare a mug smashing on the floor with our societies. On one side, a mug smashing on the floor and breaking into lots of small pieces. On the other side, a society where millions of people or even billions of people interact with each other constantly. We keep talking, trading, fighting, and working with each other every second. So, which side is more complicated? Of course, our society is way more complicated, millions or zillions of times more complicated. By comparison, the mug smashing is not even a fault in a hurricane. It's a shrimp in the ocean, a snowflake in Antarctica, a firecracker in the sun. If we cannot make predictions for this side, do you think we can make predictions for this side? This physical limitation is the source of all our problems because we are not capable of collecting all the information with our puny brains, and we are not capable of finding all the patterns. As the result, we cannot react properly. So let's call it the alpha limitation. Sometimes we can find some useful patterns in this world. That's the good news. Have you noticed that not only we love stories, but also we are very good at remembering all the details in stories. When we watch a TV show, especially those super long TV shows, our brains have the power of remembering all the characters, their personalities, their quirks, their relationships, and their histories, even if there are dozens of characters in the show. And we can do that without rewatching the previous episode. Repetition is the crucial method of generating long-term memories, but we don't have to do that when we watch or read the stories. The reason is that our brains evolved to deal with the people. Our lives depend on others. As I mentioned in the last chapter, collaboration is one of the reasons of our survival in the open world. But we are still selfish by nature. So to make sure that people's selfishness won't damage the collaboration, we have to constantly watch each other. Try see something racist on social media, see what's going to happen. See how many people will destroy you with their words. That has nothing to do with the internet. That's what we have been doing for millions of years. We are constantly re-evaluating each other, what we did to others and what others did to us. Then we make judgment on how we should treat others. If some people have been very generous to us, we will treat them likewise. If some people were nasty to us, we will be nasty to them. Because nobody wants to be treated badly, we can follow a clear pattern how to live with others. And that was how our brains evolved. Unfortunately, our brains evolved to handle dozens of people in the tribe, not the millions of strangers in the city, and definitely not the complicated world now we are living in. Our ancestors didn't have to worry about the economy. They didn't really have one. They didn't have to worry about the government. Again, they didn't have one. They didn't have to worry about the crimes. There were only 60 people in the tribe. The community was so tiny that everybody knew what everybody did. They didn't have to worry about the war, because war was the only law in the wilderness. Everybody just had to live with that. They didn't have to worry about the socio-economic inequality because everybody was poor. They didn't have to worry about the moral degradation because there are little to enjoy in their lives. The only worry they had was enough food for their children. Today, we have to worry about pretty much everything. The economy, the government, crimes, and the war could all go wrong in a completely unpredictable manner and cause huge damages to our society. The gap between the poor and the rich is always growing and causing the society increasingly unstable. There are too many things to enjoy. People could be easily corrupted. Yes, we have enough food for our children, but is it safe? We do not know. We are completely out of our depth, living in such a complicated world. We don't know how the economy works. Even the experts, they make wrong predictions all the time. We know there are criminals in our society, but we don't know where they are and when they are going to attack. We don't know how the government works. No matter what names you use to call them, democracy, authoritarianism, socialism, or whatever, deep down you know you actually have no idea how any system works. A government is a bunch of people doing millions of small things every day. Do you really think you know every detail? Those fancy words are only tools for communication, not the true descriptions of how any system actually works. Our world is teeming with contradictory opinions on almost everything. They are the perfect evidence that we don't understand our society and we can't make reliable predictions. So everyone is just guessing. To make the whole thing even worse, social studies will never be scientific because we cannot prove any theories related to our society. The best any experts can do is making very powerful and convincing arguments. But they will never be able to prove them. To prove any theory, a test is needed. Unfortunately, social tests are impossible to be conducted, especially if the test involves lots of people. The only way to prove a social theory is that we must reverse the timeline, go back to the past, change a variable, and then let the world unfold again. For example, if you have a theory that the Great Depression was triggered by a man in New York who bought a load of bread without paying it, what he did caused a chain reaction that led to the Great Depression. It sounds like a ridiculous theory, but after we reversed the timeline and reminded that man to pay for the bread, the Great Depression really didn't happen. Then you proved your theory, no matter how ridiculous it is. But we don't have such a technology. Even if we one day developed such a technology, I don't think people would like to be used as lab rats just to prove some theories. The alpha limitation renders social studies and historical studies almost useless. Some say history repeats itself. I strongly disagree. We are facing a new world every second, which means we are always going to face new problems. If you agree that the civilization is progressing or developing, then what happened in the past has little value to us. If you disagree, it doesn't change the fact, because if the civilization is just changing randomly, then what happened in the past is completely irrelevant. Think about your life. When you are 17 and you fall in love for the first time in your life, this is something completely new for you. Do you think all the life experiences you had before 17 is going to help you deal with your new love life? I don't think so. Let's say you are now 30 and you just became a father. Again, all the life experiences before this moment is not going to improve your fatherhood. When you hit 40, you notice that your health begins to decline. This has never happened before. When you were young, you were always full of energy. When you were tired, you had a good sleep and you would become a new person. But when you hit 40, you just cannot have a full recovery anymore, no matter how long you sleep. Your life experiences from your youth will only give you delusions, not help. 100 years ago, nobody worried about problems like pollution, energy crisis, garbage disposal, overpopulation, AI will kill us, how many genders there are, etc. Only 10 years ago, Chinese people couldn't even imagine that one day this country would stop making babies and the population would begin to drop. Now it's a huge problem in China due to the endless repercussions on the horizon, and the Chinese people had no idea what to do. Searching in China's super long history, no answers could be found because nothing like this has ever happened. Our history tells us where we were from. It can give us courage and inspire us, but it's not going to tell us what's going to happen in the future and how we should handle it. And if we cannot predict what's going to happen in the future, especially what the dangers lay ahead of us, we're walking forward with eyes closed. Making predictions is crucial to our survival. In fact, the faster we move, the further ahead we have to look. When you walk, you only need to look 2 meters ahead. When you are on bicycle, 10 meters ahead. When you are driving a car, 50 meters ahead. On an airplane, well, your eyes are no good anymore. You need a radar to look even further. Now, our world indeed is moving forward faster, but are we capable of looking further ahead? This is the reason I always mention energy efficiency. We need a new perspective to look at our society. As I mentioned, we are not living in a small tribe anymore. Our old instinct is outdated. We should study our society as a physical phenomenon as it is. This is actually where we're going. We are looking at our society with a new and more physical perspective. Nowadays, GDP and GDP per capita are important numbers to judge how good a country is running. These numbers reveal the physical core of our society and evade our old instinct that focuses too much on details of human interactions. Our society hence becomes more tangible to our brains. These numbers are still problematic, but we are on the right path. Looking at China in a more physical angle, China will make more sense to you. If China is just some numbers, you would forget the skin colors, the facial features, the strange language, the weird culture, the hateful political system, or anything else superficial about China. But of course, we are not there yet. There's still a long way to go.